right, so I think Chris sort of asked me here to play one of these things is not like the other. I think I may be the only person on this panel who has absolutely no formal training in biology whatsoever. My academic background is in linguistics and then computer science. For my day job, I work in data mining, and I also do work in computer security. So I suppose you could call me a hacker, although that title is really more earned rather than taken. So something that, that linguistics, formal language theory, data mining, and biology all have in common is figuring out patterns, such as this amazing piece of spaghetti code, which is the set of metabolic pathways for Homo sapiens. When I look at this, and this is, this is incredibly zoomed out. This poster covers a wall, and you can literally look at every single protein that is produced in the human body, and where those proteins go and what they do. And you can then refer back to GenBank or other publicly available resources and look at where those came from and the, what the actual sequences are. So when I look at that, I think, wow, this is cool. What can I do with it? And what I do in my spare time mostly involves working with this guy. This is Lactobacillus acidophilus. He's living in all that yogurt that's up there, and we'll be playing with him some tomorrow. So my husband and I have been working for a while on the question of how can you take Lactobacillus acidophilus, which is a symbiote with humans. It lives in our intestines. When you take antibiotics, the doctor recommends that you follow the course with some yogurt just to replenish your natural gut flora. We have a symbiotic relationship with this and many other bacteria which live inside us. In fact, there are more bacterial cells in the human body than there are human cells. And so the question that we've been asking is, how can we change and improve these symbiotic relationships? There's some work that we've been doing with Jonathan Klein on using lactic acid bacteria to detect melamine contamination in food. Len and I are also working on trying to modify lactic acid bacteria to produce an enzyme that is missing in humans, but which, if we had it, would allow us to produce our own ascorbic acid, and that would completely, if we had that symbiotic relationship with bacteria making that enzyme for us, there's a good chance that we could cure scurvy. So I mentioned my husband. Back in the 90s, he was pretty heavily involved in a group you might have heard of known as the Cypherpunks. There was a little tiff going on that we refer to as the crypto wars. Hands up everybody who's ever purchased anything online. Okay, you have the Cypherpunks to thank for that. In the 1990s, mathematics was considered a munition. It was illegal to export strong cryptography, the kind of strong cryptography that you need in order to be able to keep somebody sniffing on the wire from learning what your credit card number is. That was what these guys were working on, and they were facing a lot of opposition from the federal government, which was concerned that states like Iran would try to use it against us. But they fought like hell and they won, and a lot of that had to do with ideology. And they had a little piece called the Cypherpunk Manifesto, which I've updated and which I'll read to you now. Scientific literacy is necessary for a functioning society in the modern age. Scientific literacy is not science education. A person educated in science can understand science. A scientifically literate person can do science. Scientific literacy empowers everyone who possesses it to be active contributors to their own health care, the quality of their food, water, and air, their very interactions with their own bodies and the complex world around them. Society has made dramatic progress in the last 100 years toward the promotion of education, but at the same time, the prevalence of citizen science has fallen. Who are the 20th century equivalents of Benjamin Franklin, Edward Jenner, Marie Curie, or Thomas Edison? Perhaps Steve Wozniak, Bill Hewlett, Dave Packard, or Linus Torvalds, but the scope of their work is far narrower than that of the natural philosophers who preceded them. Citizen science has suffered from a troubling decline in diversity, and it is this diversity that biohackers seek to reclaim. We reject the popular perception that science is only done in million-dollar university, government, or corporate labs. We assert that the right of freedom of inquiry, to do research and pursue understanding under one's own direction, is as fundamental a right as that of free speech or freedom of religion. We have no quarrel with big science. We merely recall that small science has always been just as critical to the development of the body of human knowledge, and we refuse to see it extinguished. Research requires tools, and free inquiry requires that access to tools be unfettered. As engineers, we're developing low-cost laboratory equipment and off-the-shelf protocols that are accessible to the average citizen. As political actors, we support open journals, open collaboration, and free access to publicly funded research, and we oppose laws that would criminalize the possession of research equipment or the private pursuit of inquiry. Perhaps it seems strange that scientists and engineers would seek to involve themselves in the political world, but biohackers have, by necessity, committed themselves to doing so. The lawmakers who wish to curtail individual freedom of inquiry do so out of ignorance and its evil twin, fear, the natural prey and the natural predator of scientific investigation, respectively. If we can prevail against the former, we will dispel the latter. As biohackers, it is our responsibility to act as emissaries of science, creating new scientists out of everyone we meet. We must communicate not only the value of our research, but the value of our methodology and motivation, if we are to drive back ignorance and fear into the darkness once and for all. We, the Biopunks, are dedicated to putting the tools of scientific investigation into the hands of anyone who wants them. We are building an infrastructure of methodology, of communication, of automation, and of publicly available knowledge. Biopunks experiment. We have questions, and we don't see the point in waiting around for someone else to answer them. Armed with curiosity and the scientific method, we formulate and test hypotheses in order to find answers to the questions that keep us awake at night. We publish our protocols and equipment designs and share our bench experience so that our fellow biopunks may learn from and expand on our methods, as well as reproducing one another's experiments to confirm validity. To paraphrase Eric Hughes, our work is free for all to use worldwide. We don't much care if you don't approve of our research topics. We're building on the work of the Cypherpunks who came before us to ensure that a widely dispersed research community cannot be shut down. Biopunks deplore restrictions on independent research for the right to arrive independently at an understanding of the world around oneself as a fundamental human right. Curiosity knows no ethnic, gender, age, or socioeconomic boundaries, but the opportunity to satisfy that curiosity all too often turns on economic opportunity, and we aim to break down that barrier. A 13-year-old kid in South Central Los Angeles has just as much of a right to investigate the world as does a university professor. If thermocyclers are too expensive to give one to every interested person, then we'll design cheaper ones and teach people how to build them. Biopunks take responsibility for their research. We keep in mind that our subjects of interest are living organisms worthy of respect and good treatment, and we are acutely aware that our research has the potential to affect those around us. But we reject outright the admonishments of the precautionary principle, which is nothing more than a paternalistic attempt to silence researchers by inspiring fear of the unknown. When we work, it is with the betterment of the community in mind, and that includes our community, your community, and the communities of people that we may never meet. We welcome your questions, and we desire nothing more than to empower you to discover the answers to them yourselves. The Biopunks are actively engaged in making the world a place that everyone can understand. Come, let us research together. Thank you.